All right, everybody, get ready because today we are diving headfirst into the world of fire service vehicle operator interviews.
Yeah, you know those brave folks who maneuver those fire trucks like it's second nature?
Talk about pressure. The stakes are high, and you absolutely have to show you can handle the heat. Literally.
It's way more than just being a good driver.
Right.
We're talking about someone who gets the seriousness of this job, the safety procedures, how to work as a team when things get crazy, the whole nine yards.
You've got to be ready for anything. So you've got the skills, you're ready to roll, pun intended, of course. But how do you totally nail that interview?
That's what we're going to unpack today.
We're using real questions straight from RoleCatcher's database, by the way.
Think of this as your emergency prep kit, but for like the interview hot seat.
I love that. Okay, first up, a question to separate the pros from the rookies. Can you describe a time when you had to respond to an emergency situation while operating a fire service vehicle?
Ooh.
This isn't theoretical. This is about proving you've actually been there.
This is about showing you have experience and you can stay calm in a crisis.
Right.
Now, the interviewer isn't looking for a laundry list of every time you've turned on the siren. They want a specific situation where your actions made a real difference.
Yeah.
Think back to a time when maybe you were a volunteer or maybe it was a ride-along, where you had to think fast and perform under pressure.
Because that career guide, fire service vehicle operator we've got here, it really emphasizes how important it is to be cool under pressure in this job.
For sure.
Okay, so how should someone structure a good answer to that kind of question? It's not exactly something you can, like, memorize word for word, is it?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
This is where something like the STAR method can be a lifesaver. It stands for situation, task, action, result.
Okay, I like it. Break it down.
You set the scene, so maybe it's a huge multi-car pileup on a super icy road.
Well, that's bad.
Yeah, and your task was to get that fire engine there as safely and quickly as possible. What specific actions did you take, right? Like navigating through that crazy traffic, maybe coordinating with dispatch, maybe both. And then the most important part, what was the outcome? Did you clear the way for the other first responders to get through?
Okay, so instead of just saying, I drove the truck,
Mm-hmm.
you're really painting a picture, showing them how you think under pressure.
Exactly.
That's really smart.
Okay, this next question is interesting. Can you explain the role of a fire service vehicle operator in a multi-agency response to a large-scale emergency? It feels like it's about so much more than just knowing which radio channel to use.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where that typical interactions section in the career guide comes into play.
Yeah.
It talks about how crucial teamwork and clear communication are, especially in those high-stakes situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you want to be ready to talk about a time you had to work hand in hand with maybe the police, paramedics, maybe even an AGMAT team, a situation where being on the same page was absolutely essential. Oh, like that time the tanker truck flipped over on the highway and they had to bring in the AZMAT team. Now that's a story waiting to be told.
Oh.
Okay, so how do you make sure your answer doesn't just sound like a jumbled mess when the pressure's on?
You're right. It's easy to get flustered.
Right.
Clarity is key. So structure your answer, talk about the other agencies involved, what your specific responsibilities were as part of that team, and how you made sure everyone was on the same page. That communication was seamless.
Okay.
Like, did you have to relay really important info from the scene back to dispatch so they could send the right resources?
It's like you're conducting this very important, very high-pressure orchestra.
That's a good way to put it.
And that actually makes me think about something the guide mentioned, about how technology is changing the game. Like they mentioned drones, how fire services are using them more and more these days.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And that ties in really well with the next question, which is, how do you stay current with changes in fire service vehicle technology and regulations?
Well, that's a big one.
Yeah, this is your chance to show them you're not stuck in the past and that you're all about adapting to the latest and greatest.
It's like the fire service is always changing, and what's brand new today might be outdated tomorrow.
That's so true.
So how do you stay on top of it all?
This is your opportunity to show you're committed to learning, that you're not just going to rest on your laurels.
Right.
Have you been to any conferences, workshops, or even gotten more certifications? Maybe you took a course on the newest fire suppression systems.
Oh, yeah.
Or those massive new aerial ladder trucks.
Or maybe you're brushing up on your drone piloting skills.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, the guide mentions joining professional organizations like the IAFC or the NFPA.
Yeah, those are great.
It's all about showing you're not just there for a job, but you're there for a career.
Yes. 100%. And don't underestimate networking. Just connecting with people,
Right.
that can be huge.
Yeah.
You can get really valuable insights into the newest trends and technologies.
Absolutely, because everyone's got their finger on the pulse in different ways, right?
Exactly.
Okay, now this next question is about the actual, nuts and bolts.
Mhm.
How do you maintain and inspect fire service vehicles to ensure they are in proper working order?
Okay, so this is more than just making sure the siren works, right?
Right.
Interviewers want to see what your process is. Do you have this super detailed checklist? Are you all over the maintenance schedules for all the different equipment?
Right.
You want to show you're proactive about keeping those vehicles running.
So if I were to say, like, I check the tires and fluids regularly, that's not really painting that detailed picture, is it?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Instead, try to think back to a specific time where you noticed something that could have been a problem.
Okay.
Maybe you spotted a tiny crack in a hose or something, and by taking care of it right away, you prevented a potentially dangerous situation down the line.
Oh, wow.
That kind of story that shows you really care about those vehicles.
Because in that line of work, a vehicle that's in tip-top shape, that's not just about getting things done, that's about safety, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
It's paramount.
Okay, ready for a question that might make some people sweat a little. Can you tell me about a time you had to make a difficult decision while operating a fire service vehicle? What factors did you consider?
Okay, yeah, that's like the classic, tell me about a time you messed up question.
Right.
But, with a fire engine thrown in for good measure.
Right, exactly.
But honestly, everyone makes mistakes. What matters is how you learn and grow from those experiences.
So it's less about proving you're perfect and more about showing you can handle tough situations and come out stronger on the other side.
Exactly, yeah. What they're looking for is your thought process under pressure. Choose a situation where you had to make a judgment call, maybe where there wasn't a clear right or wrong answer, and talk about the things you thought about. Were there any safety risks? Did you have all the info you needed? Were there other options? That kind of thing.
Right, because in a real emergency, the right answer isn't always obvious.
Never.
Yeah.
You have to think on your feet, make the best decision with what you have.
Okay, we've covered a lot, but let's shift gears for a second and talk about RoleCatcher, because it can give you a real edge.
Yeah.
It's not just about knowing the answers, it's about having the right answers, tailored for each specific job posting.
Absolutely. RoleCatcher's AI is like having your own personal interview coach, It looks at those job descriptions, figures out the exact skills and keywords thereafter.
Oh, wow.
And then it helps you fine-tune your answers so you're really hitting the mark. And remember we talked about beating those AI screeners?
Yeah.
Well, RoleCatcher, it helps you do just that.
It's like speaking their language.
Exactly.
I love it. Plus, RoleCatcher gives you feedback like, here's how to make your answers even better.
It's awesome.
Okay, before we get to our last few questions, I want to circle back to something we mentioned earlier, the human element of all this. We talked about teamwork and communication being so important, but the guide, it also really highlights empathy as a key skill for a fire service vehicle operator.
And that's so important to remember. You're
Yeah.
not just dealing with sirens and roadblocks. You're dealing with people who are in really stressful, sometimes even life or death situations.
Absolutely, and that takes us to this question. How would you handle a situation where a bystander is panicking or interfering with your ability to do your job at an emergency scene? This one isn't just about staying calm yourself. It's about understanding what other people are going through in that moment.
It's about reading the room, basically.
Right.
You need to show them that you can be calm but compassionate at the same time. Maybe you can think of an example of a time when you had to, firmly but kindly guide someone to safety, or maybe reassure someone who is really upset.
Yeah, de-escalate.
It's all about showing that you can handle those tough human situations with both authority and empathy, that you can walk that line.
Because sometimes the biggest danger isn't the fire or the wreckage. Sometimes it's the panic, right?
100%.
Okay, now for a question that's all about showing you're not just a one-trick pony. Do you have experience operating other types of emergency vehicles or heavy machinery? If so, please describe.
Okay, so this is your chance to show off any extra skills that might give you a leg up.
Right.
Maybe you've got experience with ambulances, tow trucks, even stuff like construction equipment, anything that shows you're versatile.
It's like saying, hey, need someone to parallel park a fireboat. I'm your guy.
Exactly.
Right.
But seriously, honesty is key here. If you don't have experience with a particular vehicle, don't try to BS your way through it.
Yeah.
Just focus on the skills that transfer over, your ability to handle those big vehicles, being aware of your surroundings, staying cool under pressure.
Yeah, because those core skills can really make you shine, even if you haven't driven every single emergency vehicle out there. Okay, final question. This one takes us back to safety. What steps would you take to ensure the safe and efficient transport of firefighters to and from an emergency scene?
It sounds pretty straightforward, but it's a good opportunity to really drive home how seriously you take safety, especially when it comes to your crew.
Right, because those are your people.
Exactly. And it's more than just telling everyone to buckle up,
Yeah.
Are you checking that everyone's seatbelts are actually fastened properly? Are you communicating clearly about the route and any potential hazards along the way?
And maybe even mentioning that you always do a quick head count before you leave the scene,
Yeah.
just to be extra cautious.
Those little details, they show you're on top of it.
They really do. Wow, today we really got into the nitty-gritty of those fire service vehicle operator interviews.
We really did.
But hey, are you feeling fired up and ready to tackle those applications?
I hope so.
Don't forget about RoleCatcher. It's a free resource, and it can give you a real leg up.
Totally. It's like having that AI secret weapon on your side.
Exactly. From understanding exactly what those job descriptions are really looking for to helping you tailor your answers, it's like having a career coach who speaks algorithm.
It's the future of job hunting.
It really is. And on that note, we're wrapping up our deep dive into the world of fire service vehicle operator interviews. Remember, you've got the skills, you've got the drive, pun intended this time.
You've got this.
And now you've got the knowledge to totally rock that interview.
Stay safe out there. And don't forget, always keep learning.
Until next time, keep those wheels turning.